Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're taking a deep dive into Google Gemini today and how it might change higher education. We've got a really interesting mix of sources. You've sent us academic papers, tech articles, the works. So let's see what we can uncover.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. We're not just looking at a new piece of software, but something that could totally change how we learn and teach, even how we think about knowledge itself.
It really does feel like we're on the edge of something big. You've clearly been doing your research on this, so let's start with the basics for anyone who hasn't encountered it yet. What exactly is Google Gemini? It's being described as this multimodal AI powerhouse, but what does that actually mean, especially for students and professors?
Imagine if you had an AI that could not only understand and create text, like those chatbots everyone's using these days, but could also work with pictures, sound, even video all together seamlessly. That's what Gemini is trying to be. It's designed to be this multi-talented tool that can handle a huge range of things. We're talking writing research papers, building presentations, maybe even tutoring students on really complicated topics.
Wow. Okay, now that is impressive. It seems like Google's really going all out with this. And you mentioned they've released Gemini in a few different versions, right?
Exactly. You've got Gemini Nano, which is made for those quick interactions like on your phone. Then there's Gemini Pro for more everyday use. And then you've got the big one, Gemini Ultra. Think of Ultra as Google's most powerful AI yet, the one they've built to take on the really complex stuff.
Sounds like they're really aiming for that top spot in the AI world. But before we get too far into the hypothetical, you found a study from Saudi Arabia that looked at how students are actually reacting to Gemini in real classrooms. What did they find?
This study is really interesting because it shows this kind of cautious optimism from students. They use this framework called UTU, and it turns out students do believe in what Gemini could do. They see the potential benefits. But
There's always a but, isn't there? Come on, what's the catch?
resources, or, well, the lack of them, universities, and maybe even Google, need to step up and provide more support and training. It's like giving someone this amazing telescope, but no star charts, no instructions. It's kind of the situation they found.
And we're not just talking about a small group of students, are we? This study looked at pretty significant number of people, right?
Oh, absolutely. It covered 400 students across 7 universities, which gives us a really good snapshot of what's happening. The excitement is definitely there, but they need the infrastructure and guidance to really make the most of Gemini.
It sounds like there's a real need for practical support to go along with this exciting technology. But let's shift gears for a minute and talk about another way Gemini could be used as a research tool. One paper you shared really caught my eye. It was about Gemini becoming a kind of research assistant.
It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? And it goes way beyond just, say, summarizing data automatically. This paper suggests that Gemini could actually be a partner in how researchers think. Imagine helping them strengthen their arguments, get past writer's block, even maybe prevent plagiarism.
You know, that really speaks to me. I remember staring at a blank page, trying to wrangle those research papers. It could be a game changer, especially.
Especially for people who find academic writing really tough, like someone who doesn't speak English as their first language. This paper suggests Gemini could make things more inclusive, help students from all kinds of backgrounds to express their ideas more clearly.
That's a really important point. Having a tool like that could really level the playing field. But let's be honest, even experienced researchers can get stuck sometimes. Do you think Gemini could give them a fresh perspective, maybe even challenge their thinking and spark new ideas?
Absolutely. Sometimes all it takes is a new way of looking at things to get those creative juices flowing. But of course, we have to remember that no technology is perfect. There are always downsides. And that's especially true with something as powerful as AI.
You're right, we can't get carried away by the excitement without thinking about the potential problems. And when we talk about powerful AI, I mean, data privacy has to be a concern, right? Both Gemini and ChatGPT, they're collecting so much user data, it makes you wonder how it's all being used, how it's protected, especially in education.
That's a huge issue for sure. It's like, on the one hand, we've got the possibility of these super personalized learning experiences, right?
Hmm.
AI tailoring things to each student. But that means collecting and analyzing data about them. And that's where the worry comes in. Who has access? What are they doing with it? What if it gets into the wrong hands?
It's a tough one. Imagine if every time you typed something, every question you asked, every single draft of an essay was all being saved and analyzed. That can feel kind of creepy, even if the goal is to make learning better, you know?
It's something we need to talk about as a society. How much data are we okay with in education? How do we keep that balance between personalization and privacy? And these questions, they become even bigger when we remember AI can sometimes, well, it can pick up on existing biases in society.
Exactly. We can't forget about those concerns. And speaking of navigating tricky waters, one article you sent really stood out. It was comparing Google Gemini with ChatGPT, its big competitor.
Ah, yes, the AI showdown. It's a classic, isn't it? The small guy versus the giant. OpenAI, this scrappy startup with ChatGPT, going up against Google, this massive company.
And they both have their good points. ChatGPT has been around longer. People are using it in all sorts of ways, and it's really taken off. It seems like I see it everywhere.
ChatGPT's definitely made a splash. But Gemini's coming up fast, and it's got its own advantages. The fact that it can work with pictures, sound, video, that's huge. Being able to just bring all that into your work, it opens up so many possibilities. And let's not forget, Gemini has Google behind it, right? So
Yeah.
it works smoothly with everything else. Search, Docs, Gmail, the whole thing.
So it's not just about the AI itself, but how well it fits in with all the other tools we're using every day. That integration could be a big deal for people.
Definitely. It's all about making things easier, making your workflow smoother. And really, for the person using it, having choices is a good thing. Competition usually leads to better products, pushes both sides to keep improving.
That's what's great about tech. There's this constant push to do more to make things even better. But with all this talk about Gemini and ChatGPT, what advice would you give someone who's just starting to learn about all this?
Be informed. That's the key. Learn what each tool is good at, what its limitations are, and try them out. Both Gemini and ChatGPT have free versions, so play around with them, see what clicks for you, what fits what you need.
That's great advice. It's like you wouldn't buy a car without taking it for a test drive. You got to get a feel for it, see how it handles, then decide if it's right for you. It really is like finding the right tool, right? Whether it's something basic like a hammer or, sophisticated AI like we're talking about. You want something that just feels right, helps you get things done.
Exactly. And the more you use these tools, the more you figure out your own preferences, like what works best for how you learn, how you do research, or even just, for satisfying your own curiosity.
And that's what makes this whole area so exciting, right?
Uh,
There's always something new to discover, something that makes you think differently. So we've looked at what Google Gemini can do, we've talked about the ethical side of things, and we've even gotten into how it stacks up against ChatGPT. It feels like we're just scratching the surface, though, when it comes to AI in education.
oh, it's such a fast-moving field. I mean, think about it. Just a few years ago, this level of AI was like something out of science fiction.
Yeah.
And now it's becoming normal, part of everyday life.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you put it that way, and it makes you wonder, where do we go from here? What does the future hold for AI in education?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yep.
We don't have all the answers, but we can look at where things are heading. Some experts believe we're on track to achieve, get this, artificial general intelligence. AGI, they call it. Imagine AI that can do anything a human can do intellectually.
Wow, now that is a game changer. It makes you think, if AI gets that smart, what does that mean for us? What role will humans have in education then?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And to be honest, it's a little scary to think about. Will we become obsolete? Or will we find new ways to learn and teach, new ways to be creative alongside these AI partners? It's something to keep in mind as you're exploring these tools and how they affect your own work.
That's definitely something I'll be thinking about. And for you, our listener, we hope this deep dive has given you some things to think about, maybe sparked your curiosity. AI is changing so quickly, it's up to all of us to learn about it, think critically, and make sure it's used in a way that benefits everyone. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of Google, Gemini, and beyond. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning. We'll see you next time.